By the way, Mr. Game-winning goal for you guys,
Yeah.
Dylan Guenther, 14 game-winning goals now since the start of last year, most in the National Hockey League. That's pretty wild.
He has a nose for the net in the most high danger moments throughout the course of a game, and this is a guy that's Adam. He's scored a ton of goals of the game-winning variety so far in his career. He hasn't even played 200 games yet, and don't forget, when he was on the World Junior Championship team for Team Canada, he scored the golden goal to win them a gold medal as well. So it's all he's done in his life and his career is seemingly score big goals for this team. And you guys have seen it, and for some of the unbelievable players that have played for the Boston Bruins, there are some guys, they just want the puck on their stick in the biggest moments. And it's funny because when Dylan Guenther was asked about the goal in the post-game media, he had mentioned that head coach Andre Tourigny was screaming from the bench for a change. They wanted to get some fresh bodies out there because it was a little bit of an extended shift. And Dylan looked up. He said, "What the heck? It's a one-on-one. Let me try to go make a play." And it wasn't just the fact that he scored, but in a span of a half a second, he dragged the puck in towards his body, was able to change the angle and shot it right under the stick. And it was a twine tickler, no chance at all for a young goaltender who's probably going to be a really good future goaltender for the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sergei Murashov. So just an unbelievable win. And after two periods, guys, the win probability for the Pittsburgh Penguins was 98.5%. Now, that doesn't tell the entire story because Utah was outchancing the Pittsburgh Penguins, a lot more opportunities off of turnovers. It was just a matter of when, not if, Utah was going to score and if they could have mounted enough of a comeback. But you just got the sense once they got that first goal from Nate Schmidt in the first minute and a half of the third, and with the fact that Pittsburgh gave up a 4-goal lead not even 24 hours the day before, on the broadcast, we were trying to paint the picture of, okay, this is very possible with both how the game went prior for the Penguins as well as how Utah was playing in that game, because sometimes the scoreboard is a pretty good liar of indicating how the game was going at that moment. So the biggest comeback in franchise history. I know it's only been a year and a half, but nonetheless, a wonderful moment in this franchise's history, and hopefully it could be a good jumping off point.
Hey, every moment is worth making a plaque after, at least in my life, that's for sure. Dylan Guenther, terrifying to go against one-on-one, and hopefully the Bruins don't see too much of that. But I'm going to quickly pivot to a guy that, look, I respect the Utah Mammoth Club. I was really upset with you all when you got J.J. Peterka. If I had a wish list and a board and could put bows on it, I was like, this guy has to get to Boston somehow. Didn't happen. His speed is lethal, his ability to do a number of things, and at one point, him and Guenther were on the same line, able to distribute that talent, though. Like, how much of a danger has that made this Utah Mammoth team to not only have this talent, but also be able to distribute amongst the lines?
Yeah, in case you know this, considering the amount of hockey and the great knowledge that you have for the game, is that when you can spread that talent out and have depth scoring, it's so crucial. And to start the season, J.J. Peterka began the year on the second power play unit and was playing on the second line. Recently, for the last stretch of games, he's now been playing on the top line with Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller, and it has seemingly been a match made in heaven. Not just the fact that all those guys are extremely advanced in the way that they think the game, and their hockey acumen usually being a couple of steps ahead of the opponents in terms of what they're trying to do, the plays they're trying to make, especially in tight areas. But there's a great speed to J.J. Peterka's game, not just in his feet, but in his head and in his hands, too. There's been numerous occasions this year where he'll pick the puck up at his own blue line, go bursting the other way, and even if he can't make a play off the rush, his speed will allow him to push back the opposition's defense. And what does that do? Well, it opens up those cross-seam plays that the likes of Schmaltz and Keller love to make. He's got a lethal one-timer. Really hasn't had many of those opportunities this season, but quite a few goals he's scored where he's entering the zone, quick little cut inside, outside, then he's able to beat the goaltender far side or short side, always keeping goaltenders honest and just being such a hard read off of his stick for a goaltender to try to pick up and snag with a glove or get a blocker on it. So just he's added to the offense of this group, no doubt, and he's been on a really hot stretch here lately. And if this team, that being the Utah Mammoth, want to make the playoffs, which are and have been the expectations from the beginning of the season, J.J. Peterka is going to need to continue to be a guy that is one of the offensive igniters for this squad. And so far, he has certainly done it in a huge way.
Yeah, and the Mammoth are going to have a lot of home games because they've played the most road games in the National Hockey League, which is
per
wild.
diem has been nice. Per diem has been nice, but it's going to be very nice to have some home cooking, especially at the end of the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to that end, and you still got 2 more games left on this road trip, and by the end of it, you will have played 8 more road games than home games for the Mammoth. How is the team done with all the travel and all the games away from home?
It's funny you ask that, Adam, because I've talked to a couple of players about the schedule this year. And the Olympics obviously has condensed the schedule so much. A lot more back-to-backs. You're playing 4 games in 7 days. And look, with all due respect to the other 4 major sports and other sports that are out there, there is no more demanding schedule in the entire sporting world than to play 82 games over the course of 8 months, and especially with everything being condensed this year, which, of course, we're all in favor for because we do want to see best on best at the Olympic Games, which we will be seeing in the early to mid-February times of the year. But talking to a couple of guys, they like the fact that there's a lot of games because that means less practice. And hockey players like to play games more than they like to practice. Rocket science, I know. But with that being said, the one thing that they did stress to me is that the travel and the recovery is just so much more vigorous. There's more travel, more back-to-backs. You're getting into cities later. It messes up the recovery routines after games and in the days between games. And this is why a lot of teams have opted for more, before the season started, for a little bit of a lighter training camp so they don't burn their guys out, don't run them into the ground. Less practices. There's an off day today for the Utah Mammoth, off day in Boston. Wow, what a terrible place to spend an off day. Looking forward to going grabbing some food and exploring the city a little bit at some point today, as I will. And just for these guys to be able to enjoy these times on the road together is obviously really important too. And the Mammoth last year, the first half of the season, were much better on the road than they were at home. I just felt like there were times at home where the crowd gets behind them, they get excited, oohs and ahs, and they maybe tried to do a little bit too much. You pass the puck into the back of the net type of thing. But this year, it's kind of been the opposite, where the Mammoth have a much better record at home than they do on the road. And as you guys know, when you're on the road, sometimes it's the simple game that is the more effective game. In hockey lingo terms. So that is certainly one area I think that they are going to continue to grow at. And when you come off a big win like they had with the third period comeback in Pittsburgh last night, that can only help the cause when playing away from the Delta Center.
Yeah, a number of guys that really enjoy thriving under the pressure, hence games over practice. But just to get your overall thoughts on tomorrow night's matchup, and plus maybe a little highlight on Mikhail Sergachev. I could be biased, covered him for years in Tampa Bay, but you're talking about somebody whose career is taking that next step and who could be problematic for the Boston Bruins tomorrow. So what do you make of this? What's your prediction, Bruins, Utah round 2 tomorrow night?
Well, first off, Casey, I would agree that Mikhail Sergachev has been a fixture and a pillar on the back end for this team. And it was made very obvious by general manager Bill Armstrong when he elected to make a big trade 2 drafts ago to bring in Mikhail Sergachev, sending a couple of important players. Geeky ended up sending him to Tampa Bay Lightning, as well as J.J. Moser, who both those guys are a pretty couple of darn good players and a draft pick in there as well. So, but you have to give up some really good things to be able to get an impactful player. That's the obvious part of trying to find a trade partner. But for a guy like Mikhail Sergachev, can run power play, can play penalty kill out there at the end of the game, whether you're up, whether you're down. He has been the entire utility defenseman that the Mammoth were certainly hoping for, and has grown into the number 1 defenseman that he didn't have the opportunity to do so in Tampa because the great Victor Hedman and first ballot Hall of Famer was there in front of him. So now he takes what he learned there. He takes what he learned from Montreal under the tutelage of Andrei Markov, another great defenseman in his day, and has now really become such a well-rounded D. As far as the matchup goes, you've got 2 teams that know how to win. And I think for the Boston Bruins, from what I've seen this season, outperforming expectations for what some people had for them before the season started. I know the tough loss in Minnesota the Quinnesota Wild. I think that's what people are calling them now. Sorry, but 4-game win streak before that, right? So this is the team that it's a blue collar kind of game. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be a tight game, as most games are, of course, in the National Hockey League this season. But I just think from the perspective of the Mammoth, it's probably going to upset some Bostonians. I'm sorry. But the Mammoth right now they're looking for a jumping off point, and I just feel like that win against the Penguins should be helping the vibes as well as the good feelings in this group, and hopefully, at least for the Mammoth's perspective, this could be a game where they go on a little bit of a run here, knowing that they're in that wild card position and trying to continue to establish themselves as a playoff team as the season goes on.